Hi, I'm Adam Keen and welcome to Keen on Yoga. Today we're going to be talking about how to pick a good yoga teacher. Now, we think it's just about information, someone who is the best at technique or telling us what to do, or the best at practice. In fact, we often select a yoga teacher through looking at their practice and deciding that they must be the best teacher because they've got a great practice. Now, this isn't the case at all. Let's look at what qualities we really need to find and select a teacher. First of all, it has to be one that's appropriate to us. So we have to have that click, that resonance, that spark between us. Someone who gels with us, right? Someone who we kind of like and appreciate, and we're all quirky and idiosyncratic around that. You know, the person-to-person connection varies from person to person, obviously, and not all teachers can be good for all students, and vice versa. We have to have some kind of chemistry. Okay? It's important in all relationships. So keep going if you don't find that, and you'll find it in someone, right? So I suppose that's my first piece of advice, is that don't just stop because you've found a teacher, or even a teacher who is kind of okay. If one has one's doubts, and that doesn't mean don't persevere with a teacher for a period, but if one isn't fully committed or fully resonating with that particular teacher, it might be time to move on. And the teacher has a certain place in one's life, and they usually don't last forever either. So when I say a good teacher, I usually mean a good teacher for a while. I don't think we necessarily pick one teacher forever, or should. Now, qualities of a good teacher, well, really, fundamentally it's allowing the space for the student to practice. Now, yes, we can allow too much space and not give technique, and teachers can come down on this side of the extreme, or teachers can not allow any space and be all over the student and really crush the student's own journey, their own opening up to their own possibilities and practice. So we have to kind of hold a space, and means filling in a little technique and holding a kind of dynamism in the room, but allowing also the student to find their own way. So holding the space, giving the space, should be easy, but it's not as easy as it might appear, right? And yet again, we don't want to fall into just allowing anything in the room, right? They've come to us to be taught, and it's assumed that we know a little bit, maybe more than where they're currently at. So we can give suggestions, guidance, tips, but also we don't want to be completely categorical, because we're also in evolution of our own understanding, and I've said things and believed things that I've also changed. So we want to be a little bit loose and not too, we want to be kind of have integrity and firmness and belief in your instructions, but don't be too domineering in them, because we want to allow that there's also different ways to approach the same thing. There's more than one way, always doing something, right? So to that end, we also want to be really supportive, right? We don't want to be censorious. It means we don't want to criticize students even if they're not doing something in a way that we think they could, right? Really, I don't really think there's any place for criticism in the room at all, for making people feel lacking, ashamed of themselves. We feel that enough in life anyway. So what we want to be doing is being supporting, enabling, facilitating, motivating, and in the space that we have provided, which is safe and supportive. And really, I suppose that's my bottom line there, or my attempt at qualifying the making of a good teacher. Isn't really about giving the best information. Some information is important. Knowing one's own practice, you get that information, one hopes. But really the teaching is between the lines. It becomes something a little bit more intuitive, and again, really comes down to holding the space, facilitating, and making the student feel like they're doing well. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but there's so many, particularly in the Ashtanga community, so many scenarios that I've heard where the student ends up feeling ashamed of their ability because they've been held back, perhaps unnecessarily, told they can't do things, disenabled, disempowered, and unfortunately that's there simply because the teacher is afraid of losing the students. So there's a sense of control around the whole dynamic. And really, if you feel any kind of sense of control or manipulation or tightness around the relationship that you're having, I would suggest you consider it again. The teacher should be open-handed. I wouldn't necessarily say the teacher would be encouraging you to go and see all different teachers. They may be, if they're very open-minded, but at least they're not super critical and suggesting if you go see anyone else, or if you learn that somewhere else, you can't do it there. And there's not this sense of jostling between teachers that is so unnecessary, right? So you want to feel enabled and empowered and not disempowered, like you can't do it with your teacher. Right? But ultimately, the teacher should have an open hand with you and be encouraging you to find your own way with things. Right? They should also be kind. I know that, again, is something one shouldn't really need to mention, but the teachers should be kind and compassionate and seem like they care, but obviously not overstepping the boundaries either. You don't want a teacher really as a friend, in my opinion, because that makes the relationship slightly different. Of course we're all equal, but in this particular relationship there's certain roles to play. And the role of friend isn't helpful, just as the role of dictator isn't helpful either. There's something in between. The teacher should feel honest to you, they should feel direct in their immediacy of their presence, they shouldn't be putting themselves on a pedestal or separating themselves from you. Right? You should feel a direct, honest communication and connection with the teacher. But on the other hand, it shouldn't be too chummy, it shouldn't be too matey. That's not helpful either. And those relationships, friend relationships, really start to complicate the whole teaching pedagogy. I'll say that word once. So, yeah, coming back to the role of a good teacher. Well, I don't know how to end this up really, but I suppose the role of a good teacher is finally one that simply allows the student's process to unfold, allows that they have their own journey and is different to the teacher's journey, right? You shouldn't feel that the teacher's has an investment in your practice, right? That they feel responsible. You should feel like the teacher's allowing you to pursue your own thing and not to become a carbon copy of them, right? Not to become a mini version of the teacher, but happy for you to expand and pursue your own practice. Well, there's a few ideas of a good teacher. Please, if you like this video, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And always leave a comment if any of it's piqued your interest at all or set you thinking. I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you again soon.